I never thought facing wild predators would prepare me for betrayal that came from the one person I trusted most. When my wife brought another man into our bed and said, "I'm opening our marriage. If you have a problem, leave," something inside me broke cleanly like a branch under winter ice. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just packed a bag, grabbed my camera, and vanished into the wilderness. 3 days later, I got the call that would shatter me again. Elena was gone. My name is Nathan Calloway, and I'm 49 years old. For more than 2 decades, I've made a living capturing moments most people never get to see. Wolves hunting under a frozen moon, a falcon's shadow cutting across the desert, a mother bear teaching her cubs how to fish. My wildlife photography gallery in Ashland, Oregon, became a small landmark, a quiet place where people could see what survival looks like in its purest form. But no image I've ever taken could prepare me for watching my own life collapse in perfect, silent detail. I met Elena Ward 12 years ago at a charity auction where one of my photographs was being sold. She was elegance wrapped in warmth, the kind of woman who could make any conversation feel like an invitation. Within a year, we were married. I thought I'd found someone who understood me, someone who didn't mind my long absences chasing snow leopards or mountain lions, someone who believed in the same quiet beauty I did. Her daughter Clara was 10 when I met her, a bright, fearless kid with her mother's auburn hair and a spark that could light up an entire room. Her biological father had walked out years earlier, and I adopted her without hesitation. When she was 16, a rock climbing accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. The doctor said she'd never walk again. She proved them wrong in every way that mattered. Now 22, she's a Paralympic champion, stronger than anyone I know. Last spring, I came home early from a 3-week shoot in Aurora Valley, Alaska. I had captured something rare, a standoff between a wolf pack and a grizzly. I couldn't wait to show Elena the shots. I remember thinking she'd be proud, that she'd light up the way she used to. It was 2 a.m. when I unlocked our front door. The house was quiet, but a strange car sat in the driveway. I didn't think much of it. Maybe one of her friends stayed late. I set down my gear, opened a beer, and headed for my office. Then I passed our bedroom door. Her laughter stopped me cold. It wasn't just amusement, and it was intimacy. A sound I hadn't heard in months, filled with warmth that didn't belong to me anymore. My hand froze on the doorknob. My pulse roared in my ears. 20 years of trust unraveled in a heartbeat. I pushed open the door. There she was, Elena, sitting up in bed, silk robe, champagne glass in hand. And beside her, a man I'd never seen. He looked mid-30s, well-groomed, confident, the kind of confidence that hides arrogance underneath. "Nate," she breathed, her face shifting from shock to annoyance. "You weren't supposed to be home until tomorrow." "Clearly," I said, my voice steady but hollow. "And you are?" The man smiled. "Damian Holt, financial consultant." He extended his hand like we were meeting at a business seminar. I didn't take it. "Get out of my house," Elena sighed, setting down her glass. "Don't be dramatic. Damian isn't leaving. We need to talk. Now's not the time." "Actually, it is," she said calmly, taking Damian's hand. "I'm opening our marriage. Damian and I have been seeing each other for almost a year. If you have a problem with that, you know where the door is." Her words didn't feel real. "You're bringing another man into our bed and calling it progress?" Damian had the nerve to interject. "Many couples are moving beyond traditional monogamy, Nate. You'd be surprised. Get dressed," I cut in. "You have 30 seconds before I throw you out myself." That wiped the smirk off his face, then from the hallway, a familiar voice. "Dad, what's going on?" "Clara." Her voice cracked slightly. She must have heard the argument. Elena's face drained of color. "Clara, go back to your room." "Like hell I will," she said, wheeling closer. "What the hell is this, Mom?" "This doesn't concern you. It concerns this entire family," Clara snapped. "You're tearing it apart." I clenched my jaw, feeling 20 years burn down in seconds. I couldn't even look at Elena anymore. I walked to the closet, pulled out my old duffel bag, and began to pack. "What are you doing?" Elena demanded. "What you told me to do," I said quietly. "Leaving." "Nate, this is ridiculous. I ignored her." I took one framed photo. Clara at her first race, arms raised in victory hour, and slid it carefully into my bag. "I'll come with you, Dad," Clara said. "No, honey. You have training tomorrow," I told her softly. "I'll be fine. Then I'll see you this weekend," I nodded. then turned to Elena. 20 years, Elena, and you couldn't even give me the dignity of a conversation before you destroyed everything. I didn't wait for an answer. I walked out, loaded the truck, and drove into the darkness toward Silver Pine Ridge, leaving behind the only life I'd ever known. In the wilderness, betrayal has a reason. Survival. This was just cruelty. The cabin on Silver Pine Ridge greeted me like an old friend, quiet, raw, and utterly indifferent to human chaos. It sat on 10 acres of pine forest, overlooking a lake so still it could hold your reflection like a mirror. I'd built the place years ago as a base for my shoots. Now it became a sanctuary, a hiding place from the ruin I'd left behind. For 2 days, I lived like a ghost. I chopped wood until my shoulders screamed, hiked until the wind felt like knives on my face, drank coffee so bitter it numbed my tongue, and at night I sat by the fire, whiskey in hand, trying to figure out how 20 years of marriage had dissolved in 20 minutes. I didn't check my phone until the 3rd morning. 17 missed calls, 9 voicemails, all from Elena. I listened to the first. "Nate, this is childish. Come home so we can talk. Damien won't be back tonight. I promise." I deleted it before she could finish. I called Rachel, my gallery manager. "Hey boss," she said, cheerful as ever. "Thought you weren't due back until tomorrow?" "Change of plans," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "I'm up at the cabin for a few days. Handle things at the gallery. If Elena stops by, don't tell her where I am." A pause. Then quietly, "Understood." That night the mountains swallowed every sound. Only the crackle of fire filled the silence. For the first time I let myself feel it. The anger, the betrayal, the loneliness that gnawed like a wild animal. Just before dawn, a familiar engine cut through the stillness. My heart jumped. The sound of Clara's modified van. When she rolled down the ramp, her auburn hair caught the rising light, burning gold in the morning mist. "You look terrible," she said flatly. Despite myself, I smiled. "Good to see you too, kid." "I brought coffee," she said, handing me a bag. "And those blueberry scones you like." We sat on the porch as the valley woke beneath us. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Clara broke the silence. "Mom's freaking out. She's called everyone, even the gallery." "Let her," I said. Bitterness slipped into my voice before I could stop it. "That's not why I'm here," Clara replied softly. "I came because I care about you." That sentence hit me harder than any of Elena's words. This young woman, and who had lost her legs, rebuilt her life, and learned to outrun pain itself, was now holding me together. "I'm fine," I lied. "No, you're not," she said. "But you will be." Then she pulled out her phone. "Dad, there's something you need to see." The headline froze me cold. "Renowned wildlife photographer's wife critical after suspected suicide attempt." For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. "Is this real?" I asked. Clara nodded, eyes hard. "It happened last night. They found her unconscious. Pills and alcohol. Damien called 911, my hands trembled. "Why would she?" I couldn't even finish. "Dad." "Damien's giving interviews," Clara said. "He's telling everyone you abandoned her. He's painting himself as the devastated boyfriend and you as the cruel husband who pushed her to it." A cold fury surged through me. "That son of a—" "I know," she cut in. "But right now we have to deal with the situation. The hospital called me. They need someone to make medical decisions if—" She stopped. Couldn't finish. Despite everything, she was still my wife. I grabbed my keys. "We're going." The drive back to Ashland was a blur. Reporters already swarmed the hospital by the time we arrived. Cameras flashing, voices shouting. "Mr. Calloway, did your wife try to take her own life because you left her?" Before I could answer, Clara wheeled herself between me and the cameras, her voice firm and controlled. "My father just learned about this tragedy and came straight here. Any rumors that he abandoned my mother are false and defamatory." The reporters fell silent. Clara had her mother's poise, but my resolve. Inside, the ICU smelled like antiseptic and heartbreak. And there in the waiting area stood Damien Holt, wearing a designer suit and fake sorrow like a costume. He was surrounded by Elena's friends, speaking with the ease of a man who thought he owned the room. When he saw me, the mask slipped. "You have a lot of nerve showing up here," he said, standing. I took a step forward, but Clara gripped my arm. "Not now," she whispered. "Mom needs you more than he needs a beating." She was right. I turned to the nurse's station. I'm Nathan Calloway. My wife, Elena Calloway, was admitted last night. The nurse looked hesitant. Sir, another man's been identifying himself as her partner. Clara rolled forward, her voice sharp. That other man has known her less than a year. Nathan Calloway is her husband of 20 years. We can prove it. The nurse nodded quickly. Of course. Follow me. When I entered Elena's room, I froze. The woman who had once been the center of my world looked small against the white sheets, pale, fragile, and barely breathing. Tubes, monitors, the steady beep of a heart monitor, it all felt surreal. I sat down and took her cold hand in mine. I'm here, Elena, I whispered. Her eyelids fluttered, but she didn't wake. For nearly an hour, I sat in silence, watching the rise and fall of her chest, every breath reminding me that no matter how angry I was, part of me still cared. When Dr. Lillian Kane entered, her tone was calm but grave. She's stable for now. We're monitoring for possible liver damage. Was it intentional? I asked quietly. Dr. Kane paused. I believe it was more of a cry for help than a deliberate act. The emergency call came quickly. She expected to be found. By Damien, I muttered bitterly. The doctor didn't reply. Moments later, a man in plain clothes approached the doorway. Mr. Calloway. Detective Vega, Ashland PD. Even in my fog, I noticed his eyes, sharp, watchful. Routine procedure, he said. We need to rule out foul play, or the possibility of staging for attention or insurance. I just stared. You think? I'm not suggesting anything, he replied smoothly. Just gathering facts. Mr. Holt claims you left after a marital argument, that your absence might have triggered this. Clara cut in, her voice steady as steel. Detective, I was there that night. I saw everything. Damien Holt is lying. Vega raised an eyebrow. That's helpful, Miss Calloway. We'll need a formal statement. As he left, I looked back at Elena, fragile, silent, broken. And for the first time since that night, I didn't know whether to hate her or protect her. For the next 24 hours, I barely left Elena's bedside. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound anchoring me to reality. Every time it spiked, I flinched. Every time it slowed, I held my breath. Clara stayed nearby, alternating between comforting me and handling the reporters who swarmed the lobby. Damien Holt tried to visit twice, but hospital security, now properly informed about who her family actually was, refused him entry. The thought of him pacing outside, frustrated that his performance had been cut short, brought me a grim kind of satisfaction. On the second morning, the light in the ICU softened as dawn broke through the blinds. Then a whisper. Nate. Her voice was barely audible, rough from the breathing tube they'd removed. My chest tightened. I leaned forward. I'm here. Elena's eyes opened, clouded, confused. Why are you here? After everything I did? I swallowed hard. You're still my wife. Tears slipped down her pale cheeks. I never meant for any of this to happen. I wanted to ask him which part. The betrayal? The affair? The pills? The humiliation? But I stayed quiet. Damien. He wasn't who I thought, she murmured, voice breaking. He told me everything I wanted to hear. That I deserved more. That I was trapped in a passionless marriage. I believed him. Dr. Kane had warned me not to agitate her, but I needed answers. Elena, those pills, did you take them on purpose? Her gaze drifted toward the ceiling. I didn't mean to. He brought wine, said it would help me relax. He handed me something for anxiety, said his doctor prescribed it. The next thing I remember is waking up here, my stomach turned cold. You think he drugged you? I don't know, she whispered. But after you left, he changed. Started talking about your gallery, your accounts, even your life insurance. When I refused to give him access, he got angry. Before I could respond, Detective Vega appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Calloway, I'm glad to see you awake. I'd like to ask a few questions. Elena tightened her grip on my hand. Stay, please. Vega's recorder clicked on. Can you describe what happened the night before you were hospitalized? Elena recounted everything. Damien's insistence that she transfer funds, the argument, his sudden shift in behavior. When she began feeling dizzy, he'd insisted she lie down. He told her he'd call for help. And then nothing, Vega nodded thoughtfully. We've already begun looking into Mr. Holt's background. Several inconsistencies caught our attention, a credit card fraud, debt, suspicious transfers. My jaw tightened. He's done this before? Vega's expression turned grave. We're starting to think so. He's been living off wealthy women, manipulating them emotionally, gaining access to their finances, and vanishing when the money runs out. Elena's face went pale. So I was just another mark. Not just, Vega corrected softly. You're the one who survived. After he left, the silence felt heavy. I looked at Elena, at the woman I'd once loved more than anything, and saw the wreckage left behind. He nearly killed you, I said quietly. I know. Her voice cracked. And I nearly destroyed you. Before I could answer, Clara entered the room. They're arresting him, she said breathlessly. The hospital's security footage caught him slipping something into your wine glass. Elena covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. Detective Vega just confirmed it, Clara continued. They found traces of a sedative in your blood. Not prescription grade, something stronger. They think he wanted to incapacitate you long enough to get access to Dad's gallery accounts. It took a moment for that to sink in. Then I remembered something. The gallery, I muttered, reaching for my phone. I called Rachel immediately. She answered on the first ring. Nate, thank God. Someone tried to log into the gallery's banking system this morning. They attempted a transfer of nearly $200,000. My grip tightened on the phone. Was it stopped? Yes, the bank flagged it for dual authentication. Good, call Detective Vega right now. Tell him everything. As I hung up, the anger that had been simmering finally boiled over. He wasn't just trying to ruin us. He was trying to rob us blind. Elena stared at the sheets, voice trembling. I let that man into our home. Into our bed. I let him twist everything until I couldn't see straight. You were vulnerable, I said quietly. He saw that. That doesn't excuse what I did to you. She looked up, eyes wet. I've spent 2 days wondering if you'd ever forgive me. I sighed, my chest heavy with conflicting emotions. I don't know, Elena, but I'm here. For a long moment, she just stared at me, as if searching for the man she'd lost somewhere between all the lies and loneliness. That evening, the news broke. Financial predator Damian Holt arrested in connection with multiple fraud and attempted homicide cases. His face flashed across every channel, that same smug smile replaced by fear. Beneath the headline, my name appeared. Local photographer's wife among victims. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, all I felt was emptiness. Later that night, I found Clara sitting in the hospital garden, the city lights glimmering beyond the glass. You okay? I asked. She shrugged. I don't know. I keep thinking about how fast everything fell apart, and how fast it could have ended. She'll recover, I said. Physically, at least. And you? She asked, glancing up at me. I didn't have an answer. The truth was, I was still standing in the wreckage, trying to find the line between love, betrayal, and pity. As the wind moved through the trees, I realized that survival wasn't just for the wilderness. Sometimes it's for the human heart, too. 2 weeks later, Elena was discharged from the hospital. The storm had passed, but the silence that followed was heavier than ever. The world now saw her as a victim of manipulation, deceit, and near tragedy. But for me, she was still the woman who had looked me in the eyes and invited another man into our home. That truth lingered like smoke that never fully cleared. Clara and I drove her home to a rented apartment across town. She'd sold the house. Too many memories, she said. The gallery reopened under Rachel's management, and business surprisingly picked up. Tragedy draws attention, I suppose. For a while, I avoided seeing Elena except for the practical things, medical forms, financial matters, divorce papers. But each time she looked smaller, humbler, more human. One evening she asked if I'd join her for dinner. Just one last time, she said softly. Not to fix anything, just to talk. Against my better judgment, I went. Her apartment was modest. No more lavish art pieces, no champagne glasses, no traces of the woman Damian had shaped her into. Just books, candles, and photographs of Clara on every wall. She poured tea, not wine. Her hands trembled. I've spent years thinking I was missing something. Excitement, validation, romance. But what I was really missing, she said, her voice breaking, was gratitude. I looked at her. Not the way a husband looks at a wife, but the way a survivor looks at someone who nearly didn't make it. You were hurt, I said quietly. But you also hurt others. I know, she whispered. And I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to know that I finally see what I threw away. Silence stretched between us, long, raw, honest. I'm moving to Boulder near Clara, she continued. I want to start over. Maybe volunteer. Maybe help at rehab centers. I don't want to waste what's left of my life running from what I did. I nodded slowly. That's good. She gave a faint smile. And you? What now? I exhaled. The wilderness is calling again, but not for escape this time, for focus. Later that night, as I drove back toward Silver Pine Ridge, the sky split open with rain. I pulled over, rolled down the window, and let the cold air hit my face. The world smelled clean, washed, renewed. I thought of everything that had happened, betrayal, pain, guilt, redemption, and realized it had all led me here. Not to rebuild what was broken, but to rebuild myself. A week later, I launched a new project, the Focus Foundation, a nonprofit for disabled children passionate about photography. Clara became its first ambassador, teaching young students how to capture the world from perspectives no one else could see. During our first exhibition, a local reporter asked me, "After everything you've been through, do you believe in forgiveness?" I paused, watching Clara laugh with the children. Then I said, "Forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing not to let it define what comes next." The crowd applauded softly. Cameras flashed. But for once, I didn't care about being in focus. That night, as I stood on the balcony overlooking the quiet city, my phone buzzed. A message from Elena. I saw the news. "You did something beautiful. Thank you for saving me even when I didn't deserve it." I typed a reply, then deleted it. Some words didn't need to be said aloud to be understood. I turned off the phone, leaned against the railing, and watched the lights shimmer across the horizon. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had transformed out into something quieter, softer. Maybe that's what healing really is. Not forgetting, not erasing. Just learning to live with what remains and finding peace in the spaces that used to hurt. As the night deepened, I lifted my camera, my oldest companion, and focused on the stars. The lens caught their light perfectly, each one a story of survival, millions of years in the making. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Thank you for listening. If you believe in second chances and strength after pain, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every click helps us bring more real stories to life.